Everybody, Todd Cooperrider here from ESOTERIC. Welcome to our first live FAQ session. Since it's our first, despite the fact that we've got a bunch of people working back behind the scenes on this, we may have some technical difficulties, so just bear with us if that is the case. Everything goes well here. It's something we want to do more regularly. The FAQ, since we launched it earlier in the year, has been wildly popular. People love submitting questions. They like the short answers and the short segments with it. So we thought we'd do something a little bit different here today. Excuse me. Bring it live, answer questions that people have today. Now we do have some questions. We put a notification up in our community tab, and some people submitted questions. So I have some there. We've got a crew of people that are going to be feeding me questions that you are asking. So hopefully we have got enough time to cover everything. But if we don't, we've got questions that we can film future FAQ sessions, or we can continue it on with a next session. Okay, so enough said. I'm going to jump into some of the questions that we already had here. First one, and this came from our community tab. What are your thoughts on customers that want paint coating, then just want to maintain it at a local car wash? Is it not worth the money to do it? Well, if we have customers that come in here to ESOTERIC and they're talking about coating services, then we ask them about how they want to maintain it. And if they talk about going through a lot of car washes, automatic car washes, they go to the dealer to have it done, we tell them that coating is probably not for them because they're just going to go and ruin it. You can go in, you can polish the paint, make it perfect, you can put a coating on it. As soon as you run that through an automatic car wash, you're going to scratch it up. If you've been following along enough our FAQ questions, you know that we've talked about hardness or scratch resistance isn't really the big selling points on coatings. So if you don't treat them right, you're just going to go back to where you were before, and you're going to find that it's not really worth the money. So have that conversation with your customers. Next one, I thought this was a good one. How to achieve and maintain a high level of protection for a daily driver when PPF and coatings aren't in the budget? Well, that's a lot of people out there. Not everybody can afford paint protection film. Not everybody can afford to have coating services done, but they want to have a good amount of protection on the car. How to do that? Well, that could be really simple. If you're a bit of a DIY person and you're hand washing your car yourself, probably the easiest way to do that is have a good quality spray wax, something that is very quick to use. So when you're drying off the car, you can go back, spend maybe another 10 minutes, wipe it down with your spray wax, and if it's every week, if it's every 2 weeks, if it's every month, that's still going to give you a good level of protection on your car without having to invest a bunch of money and without having to invest a bunch of time. Let's see here. Another one just came through. What is more important to adding gloss, paint correction or wax sealant and coatings? For adding gloss, it is a paint correction. There's nothing that's going to make as big of a difference than polishing the car. That's where most of your looks come from. Your wax, your sealant, your coating, it's simply icing on the cake. So if you go in, polish it first, make it look near perfect, bring out all that gloss and clarity, then lock it in with your coating or wax or sealant, that is the absolute best way to get the most looks out of it. If you just put a coating, a sealant, or a wax on a car, is it going to make a difference in the looks? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not going to be nearly as much as the difference you're going to make with polishing paint. Let's see here. Next one just come in your opinion, is newer VW paints hard or soft, white in particular? Volkswagen paints and a lot of the German paints are typically on the harder side. Can't say that I've had my hands on, or we've had our hands on a white, newer Volkswagen in particular, but in our experience, most of them are on the harder side. And when it comes to hard paint, soft paint, the difference that makes is on a one-step polish, you're not going to get as much correction out of the harder paint as you would on a softer paint. And it's typically going to take you a little bit more time to do the work. Let's see, next one, is there anything I can do with a pitted windshield? Would ceramic coating help? Well, there's really not a whole lot that you can do with it. Once that windshield starts taking a beating, you know, it's getting basically sandblasted in there. And once it gets to that point, there's not a whole lot you can do. Even if you get some lighter scratching on it, people ask about polishing out a windshield. The problem with doing that is the windshields have it's got its own coating on there. Once you polish that off, you know, you'll get a spot on the windshield, there's no water repellency whatsoever. Then you have to continuously put some kind of coating on there to get your water repellency back. So to answer the question, pitted windshield, not a whole lot there. Let's see here. Can you chemically decontaminate a vehicle if it has Kamikaze coat? I've had my coat on for about a year now. Yes, you can. And what you're going to find a lot of times, if you have a coating on and you're wondering if it's losing a bit of its effective life, its self-cleaning properties, hydrophobic properties, things of that nature, you could go in and do a chemical decontamination with it. And a lot of time, that's going to bring out those self-cleaning and hydrophobic properties to it that may have started to die off after a little while. It's not something you want to do all the time, but you know, if you're doing it in the springtime after you come out of the winter, that would be a perfect time to do that. You obviously don't want to do any kind of mechanical or claying on top of coatings because you're just going to scratch it, but using an iron remover like a Geon iron would be fine with doing that. Do you ship outside of the U.S.? That is a tough one for us. You know, if somebody gets a hold of us and they want a bunch of products that aren't part of our exclusive arrangements, then we might talk to people about it. But a lot of the products that we have, we're the exclusive distributors in the United States, and there's exclusive distributors in other parts of the world. So the last thing we want to do is ship a product into a country that somebody else has an exclusivity on it. So best in those cases to get in touch with us. Most of the time it's really challenging for us to ship outside of the United States, but it's always worth a shot to give us a ring. Let's see, after polishing, I spent a lot of time with post-cleanup and maintenance wash. Regularly after every rainstorm, some polish still seeps out. What can I do to stop it and prevent it from happening again? Let me read that one again. Spent a lot of time with post-cleanup and maintenance wash. Regularly after every rainstorm, some polish still seeps out. Now, the only thing I can think of this person is referring to there is polishing dust. When you're polishing, you're going to get some dust. It's going to get in all the cracks and crevices. You can blow it out, you can wash it out. Sometimes if you've used a type of product that creates a tremendous amount of dust, it's just going to get everywhere, and it may take a couple of thorough washes or rinses to get all that stuff out of there. But after you're polishing, you want to make sure open everything up, doors, fuel caps, the hood, trunk. Try to get as much of that stuff out of it as possible. If it's still problematic, you might want to take a look at different polishes or compounds to use that doesn't produce as much dust. Let's see, what kind of coating do you recommend under the hood, or do you even recommend? Not really. It's not something that we do, don't really find that it's necessary. Usually when we're working on a car, we have the hood up, we're cleaning it, we're using some kind of quick detailer or maybe a sealant to wipe everything down to give it a little bit of protection. But I think it's going past that area where it's really effective if you're doing something underneath there. No problem with doing it. You want something preferably that can withstand some higher temperatures. And it wouldn't even hurt using something that's designed for wheels on the inside of the hood if you wanted to go that route. Let's see, what's the best way to remove scratches from chrome plastic trim, like the Civic behind you, where black trim, but normally that is chrome trim. Thanks for all the videos that you do. Well, thank you for watching. That's a really tough one, because what happens with that, it's such a thin layer of material that they have on that. You can get in, start working it heavy by hand, excuse me, and the next thing you know, there's no coating or whatever kind of chroming process they do on there. It can be gone. And a lot of times you'll see if it's black chromes in particular. About all you can do on those is use a good chemical polish, something like a Classa All-in-One. We love that stuff here in the shop for cleaning that kind of stuff up. But once you get scratches and swirls in it, you could try to do some machine polishing, but you want to be very, very careful, because what you can end up doing is making it worse or ruining the entire thing. Let's see here. Can you take a coating off on a matte finish? No. The problem with matte finishes is just you're so limited in what you can do with it. You know, we've got a brand new matte car sitting outside in the parking lot right now, put paint protection film on it. From there, the best thing that you can do is put some kind of coating or a sealant on it, because with matte finishes, you can't do anything. You can't rub on it. You know, if you get a heavy bug etching and you go in and try to really scrub that off, you're going to end up slightly polishing that area and you can't go back. So by having something on there, it's going to help protect it. But the problem is, if you screw up the process of putting a coating on it, not a whole lot that you can do there, because you risk damaging the matte paint underneath. Let's see here. Next one, does PPF have to be replaced after several years? I've heard that if it's on the surface too long, the glue can permanently bond to the paint and cause damage when removed. Well, that's not necessarily the case. The only reason it would need to be replaced after a couple of years, if it's getting beat up, and that's what paint protection film is there for. It's to be the sacrificial layer. So for instance, you got a bumper on the car, it's taken a beating, you do a lot of highway driving, or maybe you go to the track quite a bit. You want to replace it then just because it's looking bad. But you know, modern films, you put it on, it's guaranteed or warranted for 10 years, a lot of it. So there's not an issue with the adhesive bonding to it. Now we've got some older Porsches that come in here, and they had the areas right in front of the rear wheels, and it just used the most horrible material and adhesive with it. It takes forever to get it off the surface. It doesn't do any damage to the paint itself. It just becomes really difficult to remove. Let's see here. Similar question about VW paint being hard or soft. What about Jaguar F-Pace darker color? I've Googled but couldn't find much. Is there a good source for this, or just experience? That's really experience on that one. And in the grand scheme of things, we don't really stop and think about it if it's a hard paint or soft paint. Why? Because we're always going to do our test section when we go to polish. Our test section with a one-step, let's say it was a yellow Rupus pad with Sonax Perfect Finish. If I go to polish that in a test section and I get really good results, I know it's a softer to medium hardness paint. If I hit it and it's going to require a lot of effort, I know it's a harder paint, and then I just adapt accordingly. If you get yourself a really good system where you don't have a whole bunch of different variables in terms of pads and polishes, it doesn't matter. When the car comes in, do a test section and you react accordingly. On that one, I'm going to say it's probably on the medium side. My wife has a green F-Pace herself, and I've had to do some spot correction, and it corrected pretty easily. But there's really, you're not going to find any kind of chart anywhere that says this company, this color paint, these years are hard, soft, medium. There's just too many variables, and it can depend on factory to factory. You get a certain color painted in a German factory versus that same manufacturer has a different car in that same color built in an American factory. They could react a little bit differently from one another. Let's see here. Best recommendation for a durable, hydrophobic, quick application. Best regards from Guernsey. I guess it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish with it. If you want a wax, for instance, that fits those needs, then I would look at something like a rapid wax from Polish Angel. If you're looking for something that maybe you're going for more durability, or you're looking to maintain a coating, then I'd probably recommend something like Cosmic Spritz once again from Polish Angel, because it's designed specifically for the coating, has crazy water beating characteristics. Crazy water beating characteristics, and that's obviously what you're looking for. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish with it, but either of those ends of the spectrum work really well. Let's see, how do you get more detailing clients? Also, what you say about people not willing to pay the price because they say it is too expensive. Well, that really comes over time. You know, you have to build up your name, your reputation, your business. You have to be active in the local car community, whether it's Cars and Coffee, working with a local Porsche club, advertising or marketing your business on Facebook and on Instagram, all those ways. Now, about people not willing to pay the price because they say it is too expensive. Well, in that case, a couple things. One, perhaps you're not doing a good enough job educating those customers the difference of what you're doing versus anybody else. If you're the same as everybody else, it's going to be challenging to try to get higher prices. But if you're doing a higher level work and you're running into those issues, I would look at the message that you're giving the customers, and also the type of customers that you're going after. And one funny thing about pricing, you know, you may be, let's say you're marketing to this group right here. And when I talk about this group, you know, this level pricing to this level pricing. Well, if your pricing is right up towards the top of that group, you have a better chance of running into that. But what if you try to go for this group of customers? Then all of a sudden you're at the lower end of that price range. Yes, you're going to drop off and lose some customers at the lower end, but you gain some at the higher end. We talk about this at the Elite Detailer Academy just about every time, about pricing and about where you want to fall in the range. And typically speaking, all things being equal, when people run into that issue, you know, maybe they're not marketing to the right group of people, or maybe they need to raise their prices even higher to get themselves into a new group of people that are looking for a premium service. Let's see, do esoteric products only work on higher end cars? No, that's not the case at all. Everything that we sell here, it can be used on anything and everything. It doesn't matter what you drive, what kind of customer that you're going after. Now, having said that, if you have got, if your business is really going after high volume, low dollar type work, then you probably aren't going to be in the market for the very high premium products that you have there. But it doesn't matter whether you're driving a $5,000 old Civic or something that's $150,000. The products that we have that we choose to use here, they're going to work equally great on either of them. Excuse me while I take a drink. In regards to coated wheels, if you use a product that with iron removers in them, will it alter the effect of the coating? Yes and no. When you have coating on your wheels, and if you're maintaining it regularly, you don't have to use iron remover type wheel cleaner very often, because the coating is there to make the cleanup much easier. So if I've got a car, I've got coated wheels, and I can wash it semi-regularly, all I need is soap and water on there. If I've gone a longer period of time that I didn't get a chance, then maybe I want to step up to a higher level iron remover type product. But you can talk to your customers about that if you're a detailer. Once you get the benefits from having a coating on, that cleanup becomes much easier. You don't have to spend as much time, and you don't have to spend as much money on wheel cleaners, because everything's going to come off a little bit quicker. Let's see here. What type of clay bar do you suggest to prep for a one-step correction? It all depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what condition the vehicle is in. If it's something a little bit lighter, it's not real heavy contamination on it, you can use one of the clay pads that are very popular. There's a bunch of different companies out there that make it. That's going to be your quickest process. If you've got a lot of contamination on it, you've hit it with your chemical decontamination, then you want to go hit it with mechanical clay. Like we've been using a Geon clay lately. They came up with some changes to it, and it is really effective. And we also use it a lot before we're doing paint protection film installation, because we want everything off of the surface, and it works real well. And for those of you that are on here, you've probably been following us for a while, and you've heard this a million times before, but that is one of the most important things about claying that we talk about, or one of the few, if not the only place that talks about it, is do not use clay unless you are machine polishing afterwards. I don't care what kind of clay you're using. I don't care what kind of clay lube or what your techniques are. You are marring the finish. There is no way around that. I would much rather have a vehicle that's got some crunchy stuff on the surface without scratches and marring than have something completely smooth, but you've got marring on it from claying. Let's see, other questions here. Do I need paint protection film? Wooden coatings do the same for less money. Well, those two items are doing two completely different things. With paint protection film, that's to protect against rock chips, any heavy debris flying up and hitting your car. There's no coating on the market that you're going to put that on and it's going to stop rock chips from happening like paint protection film will. So they're two completely different products, two completely different purposes. The coating that's going to go on there, that's protecting from just regular elements. You're driving down the road, salt getting on the car in the winter, bird dropping, all those kind of things. That's what it's protecting, and it's there to increase the level of looks and to increase the level of maintenance on it. Paint protection film, on the other hand, that's to prevent damage happening when something actually hits the surface. So it's not an either or situation with paint protection film. Let's see here. From M. Tobin 1000 locally here, keep up the excellent work, Todd, quadruple exclamation points. So thanks for watching. I know you've always been a big supporter of the channel and always commenting on everything we're doing, and we really appreciate it. And I definitely want to say there too, when you're watching the videos, you're mostly just seeing me in front of the camera, but it takes a whole crew to put this on. Right now in the room next door, we've got 3 or 4 people that are working between the technology side, manning the questions, and every time we do a video, it's a complete company-wide process. We have to shut things down. We got to move things around. There's just a lot to it. So keep in mind, there's a lot of people that make this happen. Let's see, 9 months ago, I applied Miyabi coat from Kamikaze. Can I apply ISM over it? Yeah, absolutely, you can. The only thing I would do on there is make sure that you get a really good wash. I'd probably hit it with something like Geon Iron. Then after it's dry, do a light prep wipe down, and then apply your ISM over top. You're going to be absolutely fine with it. Let's see, how often do you guys replace your microfiber towels? That is a very good question, something we talk about a lot in the Elite Detailer Academy. Whether you are a DIY person or whether you are a professional detailer, your biggest expenses that you're going to have, they're not machines, they're not polishes, they're not any of that stuff. They're towels and they're pads if you are a professional detailer. Microfiber towels, they wear out over time, and depending on where you're using them on the car, how you use them, they're going to wear out even faster. So we cycle through a tremendous amount of towels, and as we're doing laundry and we're looking at them, if it looks, feels bad, anything else, it gets pitched. So I don't have an exact answer on that because we're running through so much, but the key there is to say that you're going to go through a lot of towels. You're even a DIY person at home. You go through a regular detail of your car inside and out, you're probably going to go through a dozen towels, and then those get rewashed and rewashed and rewashed. So keep a good supply of microfiber towels and keep everything fresh. And as you have a bigger supply of towels, you're not using them quite as often. You're not washing them quite as often. They're going to last you a little bit longer. Let's see, from Calvin, who took the Elite Detailer Academy earlier this year. Since the weather is changing here, well, hello, Calvin, and it was great having you here. Since the weather is changing here in Texas, how long do you leave Miyabi coat on before removing? Example, it is 65 to 80 degrees. Well, having lived in Texas before, and I'm sure we talked about that, that gets a million degrees down there, now is a really good time for doing coatings for you. And it's going to depend on the coating that you're using. For instance, Miyabi coat from Kamikaze, In the heat of the summer in Texas, I'm going to do a maximum of 1 panel at a time. I'll do a door and then remove. I'll do a fender and remove. But as you get into those nicer temperatures in the fall where you don't have a whole lot of humidity, with Miyabi coat, for instance, you can do 2 to 3 panels before removing. If you're using something like ISM 1.0, it's a little bit less than that. I would do 1 panel, do a hood, then remove, do a door and remove. Whereas if it were in the dead of the summer, I'd probably do half a hood with ISM 1.0 before removing it. So as the weather cools down a little bit, you can increase the amount of time that goes between applying and removing. Let's see here. What do I do with coating that's run its course on my PPF? Do I need to do anything special before applying a new layer of coating? Not really. As long as it's clean, the surface is in good condition, you can go right back over top of it. One thing that we like here is the new PPF Renew from Geon. Excuse me, it's a polished design specifically for paint protection film. You can go in with a really light pad, a finishing pad, let's call it, go over it real quick because film still has a tendency to get some kind of staining and things on it. You can go over it real quick, do a prep down, reapply your coating. But if the film and the surface and everything looks good, just wash it, prep it, apply more coating, and you'll be good to go. Let's see here. DIY person for detailing my car at home. What is my first must-have item? And I'm assuming this person is talking about between blowers and pressure washers and all the other equipment and stuff. Actually, the very first thing that I would recommend is some kind of water treatment or water filtration, because you can have all the other cool tools. You can have the blower, you can have a nice pressure washer, but if you've got hard water and you have the ability to leave spots on there, it doesn't matter what else that you're doing. And you don't have to get a really expensive system. There are lesser expensive systems on the market. Usually the smaller ones, you just have to change out the media a little bit more often. But that would probably be the first thing that I would recommend is getting filtration on your water before investing on some of the other items, because it's just going to help your work be a little bit better. Let's see, when you peel off PPF, will it ruin the car paint like sticker wrap? No, and I think what this person is talking about here is, you put stickers, you put any kind of decals on paint, it has a tendency to react with the paint. We've had cars in here and people go on rallies, and you see the rallies, they're all stickered up with all the sponsors of the event. You peel those off and you can see the outline of the stickers on there. Sometimes you can't even polish that off. It reacts to the paint and there's a swelling that goes on with it, and it just looks bad. You do not get that with paint protection film. Worst case scenario I've seen on that, maybe with some old paint protection film that they've done a partial on the hood. There's maybe a line there that has to be polished afterwards, but you just don't run into those same kind of issues with paint protection film as you do, just a cheap sticker that goes onto the surface. Let's see, do you use acid-based wheel cleaner on coated wheels? If so, how does it affect the long-term durability of it versus non-acid-based cleaner? Currently have rim stance on my wheels. We do not use acid-based wheel cleaners here at all. There's no need for it. There's too many risks involved. You have the vapors that come in the air. You really should use some kind of mask, eye protection, gloves if you're using an acidic wheel cleaner. It's best not to use them. If you have coated wheels, you definitely don't need to use something that strong on it. The Stance rim coat, I've got the stuff on my wheels as well. It cleans up really well with just regular soap and water. But if you have to do a stronger cleaning on it, I would recommend iron remover or a wheel cleaner like Geon Iron or Sonax full effect wheel cleaner. That way it's going to go on there, it's pH neutral, it's not going to damage the finish, it's not going to damage the coating. So short answer to a long answer is try to avoid the acidic wheel cleaners. They're just bad news, too much chance for something to go wrong with them. Let's see here. Any ideas on how to ceramic coat without a garage? Car cover pop-up tent. I'm concerned with keeping it dry for 24 hours after application. Dew is a real problem here in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's pretty similar to what it is here in Columbus. That is a tough one, because if the customer's car, or if it's your car, if you don't have a way to keep that indoors that first night, you're going to run into problems. So if you are a mobile detailer and you want to do it, you're going to be limited by what's the weather going to be that day, and you're going to want to talk to your customer to make sure they can keep it indoors overnight. Even if you have an easy up tent over something, you're still going to get condensation build up on that car, and you don't want that before that is completely cured and dried. Otherwise, you are going to get water spots on it. So anytime I've talked to customers over the phone about that subject, I just say, hey, if you can't keep that car indoors on that first night, don't do it, because you're just risking ruining all the work that you just did. Okay, well, the final one. I think we're getting close to the end of our time here. How do I get a job at ESOTERIC? We have a career page on our website. Go in, there's a tab for it. You can submit your information in there, and we take a look at it. Here at ESOTERIC, we kind of go by the old adage of hire for attitude, train for skill. So if you've got the right attitude to fit into the kind of community we have here, we definitely would like to have you send something over to us. So I'm getting the word from Wes here that we are out of time. I definitely appreciate you guys spending the time with us. If you really liked it, let us know. Leave some more comments, send us email, let us know. We will do more of it. It's been great, because I've gotten a lot of questions here that we don't get on a daily basis, so we appreciate your contribution and your work in the community here. As always, we appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video.